Say what you will about the life of a Witcher, very few can claim to have seen more of the world. From the courts of royalty to the depths of dank dungeons, anywhere a monster has the potential to rear its hideous head, a Witcher is likely ready and waiting. When these trained monster hunters say with complete confidence that they have wiped a species entirely from the world, there's no reason to doubt them. After all, they're hardly the type to be facetious. But when a spotted wight is rumoured to be lurking in the land of Toussaint, despite the common knowledge that that species of necrophage has long been eradicated, something begins to smell of foul play among a plethora of other rancid odours. It is surely a curse that has caused this outlier. Hey guys, it's Drew here and welcome back to my Witcher lore and mythology series. Today we're going to delve into a curious curse afflicted upon the resident of the Trastamara estate in Toussaint, and by looking beneath the surface we'll learn the identity of the culprit. A familiar merchant of mirrors has taken another victim. But in order to get to the bottom of Gaunter O'Dimm's wicked deed, we need to look deeper into the story of the last living spotted wight. So let's start from the moment we learn of the curse. When travelling the beautiful land of Toussaint, we will soon find ourselves outside the cursed Trastamara estate. Each step away from the picturesque backdrop of Beauclair and Mount Gorgon plunges us deeper into some surreal nightmare. This place seems to be shrouded in a permanent layer of dense fog, a stark contrast from the verdant hills and vibrant fields of the rest of the duchy. The way is guarded by foglets and bar guests, and plant life fights against all odds to survive within the grounds. It's as if whatever curse lies over the estate is sapping the sustenance from everything within range, fending most wanderers off before they even set foot on the property. Before we explore further, let's talk about how we got here. We will most likely learn of this place from a good old friend named Emil Regis Rahelic Terzif Godfrey, or Regis for short. He resides further to the west, in a hideout below the Mare Lachaise Long Cemetery, but when we aren't busy throwing back swig after throat-burning swig of his powerfully potent Mandrake moonshine, we'll be learning of an important ingredient required for his concoction named resonance. In order to brew this special potion, the saliva or salivary glands of a spotted wight were needed. As we know, this should be impossible to obtain, as the spotted wights were long extinct, though it turns out that one of these cursed creatures remains alive, having made its lair not too far from Beauclair in this wretched estate. Now what follows could easily pan out like any other Witcher contract. We have a monster, check, and we have a dangerous, eerily silent and suspenseful hideout. But from the moment we set foot on the Trastamara estate, something is clearly amiss here. And I'm not even referring to the creepiness of the place, or the lack of life in the flora. I'm talking about the peculiar decorations ornamenting the posts and trees, and well, every corner of this cursed place. I've heard of wind chimes, but hanging spoons from the branches? And I can even understand ostentatious cutlery used to impress prospective guests, but that's hardly an excuse to suspend the contents of your kitchen drawers from the ceiling. Generally speaking, spotted wights are pretty similar to their non-spotted kin. After all, wights can be found all over Toussaint, usually plaguing graveyards. Left alone, they stick to themselves, wandering amongst the resting places of the dead. When threatened, they spew out an ectoplasmic solution, which near instantaneously transforms into bar guests, a canine-like spectre we see plaguing the grounds of the estate. But nowhere in the description of wights or spotted wights do we see any mention of spoons. This perverse obsession must be exclusive to our subject. Spoons. That immediately rings an alarm bell for those of you who associate spoons with a certain other mysterious character. It brings back memories of the spoon through the eye back in the tavern 3 years prior. But of course, that's hardly damning evidence against our old pal O'Dimm. Things start to become a little clearer when we see the details of the curse written callously across the doorway to the house and the surrounding walls.
None shall sit and dine with you at your table. No spoon you have shall sate you. Never again shall you wish to spy your reflection in the mirror.
Maybe the spoons weren't hoarded out of fondness after all, but out of a desperate craving to find one capable of satiating the spotted wight's appetite. After investigating the estate, we can find various unique spoons, from masterfully crafted silverware to old splintered wooden spoons. There's even a smashed mirror, likely destroyed by whoever became repulsed by their slowly transmogrifying visage. In another room, a dinner table is being occupied by 3 skeletons, and within the oven there is a stained diary. Within the diary, we learn the story of the afflicted individual. For a few days now, I've been having dizzy spells. I've never experienced anything like this before. If it carries on, although I can't stand witchcraft and sorcery, I'll have to visit a herbalist. The dizziness has not gone away. Worst of all, it's been joined by pain, so strong that at times I cannot see. I've been to the herbalist. A repulsive old crone looked at me like she had seen a monster. She gave me some cursed mixture that I have to drink twice a day. It's not helping at all. Today, like every day, I looked in the mirror and I was lost for words. I usually check that I don't have any wrinkles or bags under my eyes, but today, there are no wrinkles, but I'd rather that there were. I have hair growing on my breasts. It's horrible. It's got to be because of those damned herbs. I went to the herbalist to smash her face in, but her chambers were empty. She must have known what would happen to me and legged it. My family is starting to suspect something, although I am cutting the hair back, which is growing back faster and faster. I've tried to put the idea out of my head, but I can't hold it back any longer. Maybe it wasn't the herbs that have led to this, but a curse placed upon me by an old beggar whom I had to chase off one time. I have to find out. I want to hire someone who can find the herbalist. I cannot think, and it is getting hard to write. Loneliness, no family, eat. I want to eat. Not a good spoon, empty spoons, nothing, eat, it hurts, mirror, lies, no, and it ends with a scream of anguish. So her misfortune began when she chased off an old beggar looking for food. Didn't O'Dimm once refer to himself as a mangy vagrant? There's certainly more to this story. Behind the dead diners, a decaying letter can be found atop a dresser. In this letter, the owner of the estate and the cursed individual, Marlena de Trastamara, seeks the help of a detective. In this letter, we gain one further detail that surely condemns Gaunter O'Dimm. It reads, "Sadly, all I remember of him is that he sold mirrors." Now, unless the mirror industry is booming in Nilfgaard, and there are an abundance of door-to-door mirror salesmen fond of uttering cruel curses, we can surely identify this beggar as the Merchant of Mirrors, or Master Mirror. Deeper into the estate, a cauldron sits and simmers, and we subsequently hit a fork in the road. We need to hide in a place with a good view of the cauldron while we wait for Marlena, the Spotted Wight. As I mentioned earlier, this can be solved the Witcher's way. When the Spotted Wight appears for her feast, we can spring from our vantage and attack. It will flee, scurrying further into the belly of the house until we corner it in the cellar. It is here that we see the full extent of the Spotted Wight's suffering. Thousands of spoons litter the floor, a swamp of metal deep enough for the wight to dive beneath the surface. Killing it solves the problem of the salivary glands, but if we instead choose to lift the curse, we can discover so much more. As with almost all curses in the Witcher universe, the cure is usually simple, more of a ritual than a specific anecdote, and where O'Dimm's curses are concerned, it can be as simple as wordplay and loopholes in the terms of the curse or contract. None shall sit and dine with you at your table. Why don't we try sitting with her for the feast, as a willing guest? No spoon you have shall sate you. Why don't we eat without the spoons then? Never again shall you wish to spy your reflection in the mirror. The reflection of the silverware could force her to confront her appearance. And just like that, the curse began to loosen its grip on the woman, but not before she could flee. Once we find her in the estate grounds, we can see that Marlena has returned. Her better years may be behind her now, but we can take her someplace safe, where she could eat for the first time in over 100 years. This may come as a bit of a surprise to the major domo of Corvo Bianco, Barnabas Basil Fawlty, aptly named after John Cleese's famous character. Geralt has a reputation with the ladies, and I'm sure his servants see him bring back women all the time. I doubt there have been any quite like Marlena though. Obviously the journey from the Trastamara estate to Corvo Bianco allowed Marlena to share more details of her curse. We learn that she was once very beautiful and the heiress to the estate. During a grand banquet held for Marlena and her friends, a beggar came seeking alms. He had a bowl and spoon. The ancient rite of hospitality held by the inhabitants of this universe obliges the proprietor to give food and drink so that the guest may leave without being hungry. Supposedly neglecting the custom can bring great misfortune. Most rational people would consider that superstition, but if there was anyone in this world who loves turning superstitions into reality, it would be Gaunter O'Dimm. When Marlena denied him, the beggar broke his spoon and cast the curse. I imagine he broke it just like he did back on the Aphiri ship that day 3 years prior. Fortunately, the Witcher's expertise proved successful. The curse played on irony, and as with all of O'Dimm's riddles, there were catches involved. Fulfilling the terms of the curse and contradicting the condemnation was all it took. But it is during this reflective conversation at Corvo Bianco that we are provided with the final piece of evidence, confirming our suspicions that Gaunter O'Dimm was in fact the beggar. Throughout the retelling of the story, we hear the unforgettable tune that serves as O'Dimm's theme music during the events of Hearts of Stone. And that concludes the story of Marlena Trastamara, the last living spotted wight, one of Gaunter O'Dimm's countless victims. Now if you watched my video on Gaunter O'dimm, you'll know that in 1272 when Geralt banishes O'Dimm back to wherever he came from, Gaunter says in the Ossetian language of Eastern Iran, "I can't die, I'm going now, but I'll be back." And this is just another example of how impossible it is to rid the world of this being. He's reared his head in cultures dating back thousands of years, and every corner of the Witcher world will likely show remnants of his meddling, even if they're hidden in the details. Who knows, maybe we'll even find traces of his influence someday when we travel to Night City in Cyberpunk 2077. Thank you so much for watching everyone. If you enjoyed this story and think it deserves one, give the video a like. Once again, my name is Drew and I will see you later.